I'm your host Enzo Mecca.
And I'm your co-host Abdel-Sayed.
And today we're once again in Hudson. We're interviewing Alison Carol Blackburn. She's an angel intuitive and angel advocate, and she does readings for her clients. So welcome.
Thank you very
Carol.
much. It's very nice to be here.
So Carol, you say that some people call you Carol, but for some reason I want to call you Alison all the time. I'm not sure. And I read somewhere in doing research that there's another name that you're known as Little Feather. Can you tell us who calls you that and a story about it? How did that come about?
Well, that actually came through meditation, prayer, dream. It was a dream vision that I was given. When I first started opening up to spirit, first started my meditation practice and everything, when we first started to meditate, if we're not that attuned to our third eye, the angels will speak to us through our dreams, or the divine will speak to us through our dreams. And so I have always dreamt a lot, and I practice lucid dreaming, which allows me to be interactive in the dreams. And we can all learn how to do that. So in this dream, I had been working with a man named Christopher Diltz in the United States. He's an angel intuitive, and we started off as him being my mentor and guide, and then we became very good friends. And he appeared in the dream behind me, dressed all in black leather, which he would have liked, and seated before me was a Native American elder. He had long gray hair, and both gentlemen were wearing black shades, which made them very cool and
What period was this? What period
this
of time?
would be like in the late 90s.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, so Christopher, he was standing behind me, and the two men communicated, and then the elder said, is she ready? And he said, yes, she is. And he handed me my name, and he said, your name is now Little Feather, which I found really sweet, and I was very excited, but I wasn't quite sure what that meant, so I looked it up, because when they give us things, we are to research it. That's how they teach us, that's how they help us to grow. So I looked up Little Feather, and what I found was, the only thing I could find online really was a Native American story about, and I cannot remember which tribe, I apologize, but the grandmother, and I think it was the maternal grandmother, when a baby was born, would be handed the baby, and she would take a little feather, rub it on the baby's cheek, and bring forth the first smile. The first smile, and I was thinking, wow, that's really cool. I think all grandmothers should be able to get to do that. So I thought that was such a beautiful thing, and then later on, because often things are brought to us that will be shown to us much later down the path, and we go, oh, that's what that was. And later on, when I was more adept at seeing things, they showed me that the spiritual journey, if you will, of all of us was represented by a beautiful dove flying. But in order for that dove to fly, she needs all of her feathers, including the little ones. So that was also part of that message. So I don't actually use that name very much, but it was that was brought forward, and then that connected to, right afterwards I had asked in meditation to see the faces of my ancestors, because I've always loved family, and so I was interested. I fully expected to see many, many white faces. What I saw was one white person who was wearing what led me to understand they were a Druid, so that I would understand that I come from a line of Druids, but that person turned away from me and disappeared. And then what came was face after face of Native American ancestor, and two were particularly strong, but I visit them now regularly, so they really are imprinted. And they were my ancestors, and what had happened was one of my grandmother, she had chosen to pass as a white woman, because in our culture, and sadly this is still true, it's a lot easier to be white than to be mixed, Native American, or mixed, a lot of things, I guess.
Right.
So it was such a beautiful thing, and that led me to finding out about my ancestors, and then subsequently having a DNA test, and it did show up.
Really?
And
You went that far? Wow.
Oh, you betcha. Because I was born skeptical. And I believe that we need to ask questions, because I want to believe in everything, but I also don't want to be a fool or a rube. And I grew up with 3 brothers, so pulling jokes and pranks and doing stuff like that was de rigueur. So you ask, you check, and you find out. It's important.
I love it.
Actually, that makes me think of you're talking about your ancestors, and we know that you work with angels and all sorts of different angels and guides. I'm really curious, as someone who doesn't, I'm not at any point obviously where I have a clear image of let's say angels that I work with or anything. I would really love if you could maybe describe for us, if you had to write a book about the angels that you come into communication with, or your ancestors, or how would you describe them? Like,
oh, that is such a cool question. This is so exciting for me. This is right up my alley. When angels come in and we see them in this world, they usually come in their natural form, which is orbs of light. And such intense light, like when you look at the lightning bright. And often the archangels come in at like a violet blue. But sometimes I've seen Raphael come in and present himself more fully in the green energy, and sometimes Gabriel rather, in the red. Our guardian angels tend to be a golden white light, but this is all super intense. They tend to come in generally smaller, but they'll get bigger if I'm not paying attention, or if I'm deciding to challenge them. Because when I first started doing all this thing, like I mentioned, I was a skeptic, so I'd be like, okay, now do this, now do that. Archangel Michael's a good sport up to a point. And then at one point, because he was in his little light and they were telling me to do something, I was very skeptical that this would actually be good for me, and it was very good for me. So I said, well, if that's good for me, if this, and this happen, then I'll know it's true, because I wanted proof. And I could almost hear them sighing over on the other side. And so all of those things happened. And then I said, well, and his light came out like, and I was like, I'm good. I'm convinced.
That's a unit.
Oh, very much, yes, yes. And patience, lots and lots of patience. And so the angels, when they show themselves in that, but they can come to us, they can actually appear to us in any form. And they will appear to us in humanoid form in order for us to relate to them. And it's interesting too, because Archangel Metatron, who's above us in the diamond matrix, which I work with, I should explain that. I work with the archangels every day in something called the diamond matrix, which Christopher, the man I mentioned earlier, introduced me to, but the angels had me morph it. What I've noticed with the people that work with the angels, we will quite often work with them in a slightly different way, because they work with you, that works with your character and what kind of makes sense to you. For me, I've added Oriel in the middle, because she came and said, this is the Archangel of Joy, and this must be the center of all. And they all agreed. So we have the archangels surrounding us. We have Michael to the north, Uriel to the east, Raphael to the south, Gabriel to the west, Sandalphon below, Metatron above, Oriel in the middle. Each of them present themselves with a color to me, and each of those archangels, when they work with me, oversee one of the major chakras, and that is their realm. That's very cool. And our guardian angels, how I first saw my guardian angel, and this was so exciting for me, was I'd heard that angels were real. So once I knew that they were real, I said, well, can I talk to them? And that was absolutely, okay, so how? So that we started this, and as I explained, they talked to me through my dream. So I had this dream, and I was at a social function, and it was like a really crowded, and people were dressed up for the most part, but they were dressed in clothing from different time periods. And at the door to the event, I was sitting as a gatekeeper, and it was just a plain table like you'd have in a gymnasium. And I was collecting the tickets, and lots of people came through. One man wearing a boater hat from the 1900s, a red and white striped jacket, and white pants. He had a particular face, and I remembered it quite well because he was quite handsome, so of note. And then these two elderly ladies appeared that were very tiny, quite round. One was dressed all in silver and one was all in gold, and they reminded me of the fairy godmothers in the Disney Sleeping Beauty, if that gives you a correlation. But they were filled, they both had silver hair and looked like older ladies, and they were filled with joy and comfort. And as they were coming by me, they were saying, oh, look, she's here, that's so good. So it was like I was finally where I was supposed to be, so that was a good sign. And they said to me, do you have a child? And I actually did have children, but that was nothing to do, that I still do. I said, yes, I do. And I reached behind me and I touched my hand on a head and brought forth my little girl, who was not my actual little girl, but a different child. And she had wet hair, like her hair was damp, and she was wearing a white gown. And she was absolutely beautiful, auburn hair and like greenish eyes. And then as I put my hand on her, I said, this is my daughter, Angela, and then she came into like a tall being. And the angels were created at a higher energy and a higher level of evolution than we are, because we have free will, so that's to keep us in check, keep us from destroying everything. So the angels, usually when they'll present themselves to you, your guardian angels or the archangels, they're always shown as bigger than you, so just to keep things in perspective. And you can think of it, no matter how tall you are, when you hug them, your head is resting against their heart. So this is with them. So Archangel Metatron is, his color and vibration is gold, and they say that he is the archangel closest to the throne of God, meaning that you have the consciousness of our Creator, and there is no division. It is that energy and consciousness that is working through Metatron. Metatron is in charge of the time of ascension. He's in charge of the bringing in all of the indigo, rainbow, and crystal children, which are definitely presenting themselves, thank you, Lord. He is the one in charge of the Akashic Records, which the Akashic Records, for those that don't know, is the place where all of your past lives and your future and your present, everything about you is recorded and is accessible to all of us if we learn how. And then he's in charge of that, which is vast. And so he also, and then he clears our chakras. So if you need your chakras cleared, it's him. Which shows us how important the maintenance of your chakras are if you have like this archangel who's so incredibly powerful doing that. It's to put it into relevance for us, because a lot of people think it's not that important to do or don't know yet what chakras are. This we want to be educated, and it's extremely important because it helps us understand where we are on our spiritual journey and how we're doing. Also is a roadmap to tell you what's going on in your life and what's out of balance or not.
So how would Metatron actually regulate or oversee basically the clearing of our chakras? Is because you were saying before we have free will. We are beings of free will. So if we don't ask for that, is it happening?
No,
right.
It's not. It's through asking him, and then, I mean, there's a process you can learn, but the thing about the angels is they will help you to learn those processes, but in the meantime, you can just say, please clear my chakras. And then, if you feel like you're walking by a bookstore and you turn your head and you see a chakra book, oh, you're being called to that. Okay, so it's like, follow those little gut feelings in that, and when you're drawn to a book, that book could have something very relevant for you. And if you don't want to read the whole book, you can ask them to bring you to the page that's relevant. They had me read a book that was so unbelievably boring, I wanted to take my brain out. And the good part was at the end, and I was like, so next time, my friend laughed so hard, she said, so next time just ask for the relevant stuff. Okay.
Be specific.
My friend is helpful.
So, speaking of books, I have a book on my bookshelf called A Course in Miracles.
Oh, okay. Big fan.
A big, thick, heavy-duty book.
Brutal.
I didn't go too far with it.
Oh, that's too bad.
What is your... I understand that you did the course.
I did.
How did you manage to finish this? Tell me a little bit about it.
Sheer determination. Because I was asking the angels for help with it all along the way. And the Course in Miracles is fabulous because it teaches us who we really are. It helps us to understand forgiveness and manifest it in a very real way. And it helps us to understand the truth of our reality. Many of us have been raised to feel that we were born in sin and things like that. Absolutely not.
But it's so...
dense?
So dense. It's really hard to get through.
Do you want my trick?
It's like you have to...
I have a trick.
Tell me.
What you do is you don't reread it. Okay?
Oh, really? So you
just keep going.
Just keep going.
Because they repeat everything you need to know. This is written for the human psyche and mind. So they understand.
That tunes in and out.
Yeah, oh yeah. And we're like, what? Yeah, no, I got that. What? And I do that all the time.
Wasn't it also written by a scientist, someone who's in the medical field?
No, not at all. No, this was channeled by a Jewish lady who is not a devout Jewish woman, so it wasn't like...
I'm mistaken.
Oh no, she lived in New York City, and the Holy Spirit and Jesus, Yeshua, were channeling through her, which she was kind of surprised because she's not a Christian. I'm not sure what her profession was.
I thought she was like a doctor or a psychiatrist.
I'm not sure about that.
But she channeled.
Oh, she could have been. Well, any of those things, I don't know. I just remember reading that and that she wasn't really thrilled because it was a lot of information. And as you have read some of it, it's in very archaic and very difficult language. If you've read the King James Bible, then that would be a good way to practice, and also Edgar Casey's readings. Then all of that, by the way, helped me to get much better at reading all of those things. But with the Course in Miracles, it is designed that as you move forward, each page you grow, and you set yourself a limit. Like I would read a page a day. It takes 1 year for the exercises.
1 year for the exercises.
It takes, and then other times when I was ready, I could read 20 or 30 or 40 pages. Wow. But if I wasn't that, then I read one, because that's what I was up for that day. While you're doing this, you are integrating a lot of stuff. The more open you are to the experience, and this is the whole thing that I would tell everybody, is be open. Just be open-minded. You don't have to believe in God. You shouldn't believe in anything, perhaps, until just open up and see what comes and what experience you have. When I opened up to the angels, things started to change in my life for the better. I was happier. I felt just a whole bunch of other things that were really fine. They brought me to the Course of Miracles when I was spiritually ready for the challenge. Is it hard work? Bloody well right. You know why? Humans have an ability to give no value to that which we do not work for.
How are we not working for
integrating
such as
so this is it's like when you're having a baby. Like if we just got pregnant and dropped out a baby at the end of the day, I don't know how attached we'd be as a woman. It grows in you for 9 months, you go through a lot of stuff, you have to be very dedicated and determined to bring out a good finished product, right? This book is very similar to that. It's long, it's arduous, but because of that, because it takes your willpower, your determination to get through it and to understand it, that is part of what helps your soul to grow and evolve by being challenged. And these challenges, part of what comes in when you are working on the Course in Miracles, what it is, primary function is to get rid of your ego. So my teacher and friend Christopher, who had done it before me, he said, when I told him I'm doing the Course in Miracles, I was inspired to do it. And he said, that's fantastic. He said, it was like having my ego boiled in oil for a year.
Wow.
Okay, can't wait. I'll dive right into that sucker. But it is truly life-changing, and it's totally worth it. Wow. It's totally worth it.
So you gave me a push now.
Yeah, I totally am.
I'm just curious, have you revisited it? Or do you occasionally?
I have absolutely no desire to. I practice it. But I do know there's groups that are devoted to it, that they gather together to discuss it, I guess similar to a Bible study. I know that there's groups you can join to help you learn it. But to me, and this is me, I'm a person that this is my relationship with the Creator, and as much as possible I want to cut out the middleman, which is what I'm teaching everybody else. That's what my whole function is, to help everybody else to do this as well. Because of the fact that we are in a time of so much information and misinformation, how do we know what is the truth in this day and age? So as we open the monadic light, you can think of that as an internal BS meter or lie detector in a nicer way, and it works really well. So when people that are talking to me, when they're telling me stuff, like the Spirit will go, oh, that's not the truth, ooh, or yes, that's truth. And so it's really interesting, and especially because I live in a place, I don't want to know stuff about people all the time. It's not my business. So this will be done more when somebody's more fully engaged with me. So not just when I'm walking down the street, because I don't need that much information. It's important too as you develop your psychic abilities. You can't go visiting in other people's stuff. It's like they're showing me, the angels are showing me people digging through somebody's drawers to find their underwear and stuff. We are really guided not to do that. It is such a disrespectful thing. But the way Edgar Casey put it, knowledge is power. If you're brought knowledge, you are empowered by it. If you use it, all knowledge that's brought to you should be used, like in the spiritual realm sort of thing. And if you ask a question about someone, then you must be willing to pick up the phone and phone that person and say, by the way, when I was minding my own, minding your business, your husband's having an affair. So, like, you can't do that. You never want to be in that position, right?
Well, it's just too much information.
Well, that's it.
Life is complicated enough. Like,
on everybody else's. So it's about us learning, so that when people are presenting us things, we know the people that are in the higher vibration. Nice to know that most people are in a nicer vibration. It's the truth. And so, but this is what we want to bring out more. But definitely, if I were you, I'd hop on that book right away.
Yeah, I like the idea of 1 page a day.
Yes.
That resonates with me.
Digestible.
Digestible. Excellent.
I know, I've had the book, but I also not. No.
I sometimes think I should get a start group for a bunch of people just to get you
Maybe we'll get some comments on this, who knows.
But I can relate to what you were saying before about how when angels would guide you to a book, and that particular book where that useful information was only at the end, or the pertinent information, and how I like to, and what I would possibly do with that book, or any book for that matter, is I like to just, sometimes when I wake up in the morning, I go to my bookcase, I grab whatever book speaks to me and just open it on a random page.
It's beautiful to do that.
And I think really 100% of the time there's some real insight in whatever passage I choose to read at that moment.
Absolutely. The angels are confirming that, by the way. That's how they're communicating with you. So that's very good. That's a beautiful way. That's gorgeous.
You were talking, just a moment ago about, the beginning of your process, or when you were developing your psychic abilities and just doing the work. And I think that, I'm guessing anyway, that everyone who embarks on this journey of connecting with their higher self and with angels, that they often encounter doubt. And like you were saying yourself, even before, you had this this tendency to question and want proof, and you often talk about this in your circles too. Don't take it for face value. Ask and ask, and it's good to ask.
Be pushy.
As long as you're not sensitive to flashy lights. But what I was curious about is, can you, if that was the case for you, where you felt a lot of self-doubt, or is this coming from me, or where is this coming from? Is this accurate? If this did happen to you, do you remember at which point you just sort of realized, hey, I'm actually living by this, and I'm connecting, and I'm believing? Or did it sort of, how did that happen?
Well,
process?
For me, once I started on the path of getting to know the angels, and it was like I started looking for books about angels and finding different things, and then what I would do to help me guide is, because my body's always talked to me, and so if my stomach would clench, I'd know that's not it, but if you feel like open and happy, then this is something that you're drawn to. And for me, there was definitely self-doubt when I started doing readings. But they're very gentle with how they bring us into the work. So if we are connected with them and then we follow their guidance, it's so gentle. And I've seen this over the years, because I'm extremely earnest by nature, and I'm one of those people, okay, let's get it done, and sort of getting through things as opposed to embracing the process. So they don't allow that, in a way. They're just like, well, if you're with us, then this is how it's going to unfold. And I can remember that at first I would be, of course, you're doing readings for yourself, and then you see that it's manifesting. And you can use cards, by the way. Oracle cards are good. And they're simple to start with, as opposed to tarot or something which is a much deeper study. And that would be like the oracle cards from, particularly I think her name's Colette.
Byron Reed.
Byron Reed. She's very good. And Dorothy Virtue, some of her earlier decks are okay with the angels and that, just for like simple readings, but the more in deep actually is Colette Baron Reed. She's very, very good. But whatever deck you get, you would bless it first, you would say a prayer over it, and you would ask that the angels bless it and ensure that it brings you good knowledge, that it brings you, yeah, it brings you what you need. And then you start to do that, so that helps, and you'll ask a question and then you act on it. It's important not to repeatedly ask the same questions, because eventually they'll just tell you what you want to hear, because clearly you're not listening anyway. So it's fine. And then you want to keep them clear of energy and things like that. So,
what do you mean by clear of energy?
Well, in my case, whereas I work a lot with crystals, I don't really mind if people touch my crystals. I'll just take them home and put them by some selenite later. It's all fine. With my cards, no one is allowed to touch them.
Okay.
And I'm not normally like that. I'm pretty open. But the reason is, this is my relationship with the Creator. And anytime we touch anything, we're bringing our energy into it. So you're bringing your vibration. The only vibration I want is mine and whoever I'm channeling to. And that's why I do that, because this is part of my practice. I'm doing readings for people. And I've always been a person that's shy about saying, please don't touch my stuff, but I will. Get your hands off. I'll try and do it gently. But so for that, that was a good way to start. And then the most important thing you do for any of your spiritual growth, and this is absolutely important, is a daily practice of meditation, which currently what we are guided by Spirit is the most important thing that we can do for our spiritual evolution is a practice of daily meditation and learning how to pray effectively.
Which is something a lot of people shy from, right?
Absolutely. Like the plague.
Yeah, right.
Like the plague. And one of the things I hear the most, and I understand because the world is a very busy place, is, oh, I don't have time. But if it's the most important thing you can do for yourself, isn't that something we should make time for? And what Spirit guides us is, don't feel like, as a beginner, for people that are beginners, that, oh, I have to sit down and for a half hour meditate. That is not expected, and they know that that's practically impossible for most of us. When you start, it's for a few minutes a day. It's about making sure you set your roots down, your crown open, and bring that energy in the heart, and bring in the archangels. That's how I do it, because I like to work with the archangels. Meditation is a powerful thing, and Edgar Cayce, the sleeping prophet, he still has a website. He's a wonderful man. He's considered the father of holistic medicine, and he guides us that with our practice of meditation, we should be religious about it, in that you do it exactly the same every day until you become adept. And you'll know when you're adept, you'll have no doubt. And so when I first started, for example, I would always light my incense. I sat in a specific place where I had crystals and flowers and a statue of an angel if you want, or whatever. You can always change that. You can have pictures of the people you love and bring that. Music is good, essential oils, and then you just sit and allow yourself to do that grounding. On his website, he has 7 steps, I believe it is, for meditation that are free, and it's edgarcayce.org or Research and Enlightenment, I believe. Anyway, it is a very excellent and easy, just Google Edgar Cayce and you will find his website, and it's 7 steps to meditation, and it is a very, very good practice. Part of the reason I resonated with it so much is that there's a book called Ask Your Angels, written by 3 angel intuitives, and it's literally a textbook, by the way, on how to speak to your angels. It works super well. And in that, much of what they showed about the proper and most safe and effective ways of meditation are what Edgar Cayce also chose. And so for me, that made it profoundly stronger, like it really reinforced that was safe and validated. That's the perfect word. Yeah, so that really helped. And then when I first started, we're always encouraged to try different ways of meditation, because me sitting this way is good for me, but maybe for you that would be the last, okay? So one of the first things that I was shown, there's a great lady named Rosemary Altea, and she had written a book, and she had suggested that you stare at a candle flame and become one with it. Well, in 1 minute I wanted to rip out. Was not a good experience. I said, okay, we're not doing that again. And so it was understanding, okay, that didn't work for Carol that day. Right. But things do work, and then as you become more comfortable in it, that's when spirit starts to bring the increase. One of the first things that you'll see to let you know, or one of the things that comes along near the beginning, is while your eyes are closed, within you this little tiny little bluish white light will come up and ding, and that's your soul's light saying, activated, hello. And I don't know, maybe this is the same for other people, but for my whole life as a child, right up until I started meditating, when I closed my eyes, and you know, you play with your eyes like a little kid to get different effects, I would always see an eye, a singular eye, like in light, usually like a purpley blue, but with black. And I thought it was because I was playing with my eyes as a kid or whatever.
Yes.
When I started meditating and I opened up my third eye, that disappeared. So what I understood that to be was that was spirit's energy, the heaven saying, okay, it's there. What is it? Why aren't you going there? Why aren't you looking? And so it disappeared. So other people that might be having that experience, it's a calling card from the angels that want you to come in. Yeah. So it's a very, very good thing. From there, as you start to practice, you end up being able to literally practice meditation all day. The problem with that is it's very hard to come back here because it's much harder here than in the other realms that we visit.
I can attest to that, having gone to one of your meditations recently, and it was a very lavish, nurturing, relaxing meditation that you guided us on, and it's the kind of, I was in such bliss that I thought, and when it was time to come back, I was saying, no, wait,
okay,
just a little longer.
Over there, I'm not making dinner.
Cleaning dishes, washing the toilet.
That's a good excuse, I like it. So, you talked about having a little bit of skepticism a little earlier. I'm curious, how did you get to the point where you realized that angels were real? Were you skeptical at one point?
Yeah, for sure, because I was raised as an Anglican, and I mean, it's a Christian church and that. And in the story of Jesus, they talk about angels, and in the ancient biblical stories, they talk about angels. But there's no relevant or prevalent energy in recent times. Like the Bible is like older, and it didn't have anything in our time. And Anglicans are very down to earth and practical people overall, and so the angels, that what I was expressed was that it's more like of a mythological thing, like fairies. And I was horribly disappointed as a child. I was like, really? That's really too bad, Mom. But then when I found out, it was actually because I asked Jesus, Yeshua, who he really was, what he really was, who am I, what is the soul, and why am I really here? That's why I found it out. That's when I found out the angels were real. Because as his mother, Mary, is known as the Queen of the Angels, Yeshua is the King of the Angels. He's the guy that sends them in. And it's when I asked for that, that's when the first angel came, and that was Archangel Michael. None of them can come to you unless you ask for help. As I didn't know they were real, how would I ask them? Now, I think I spoke often with them as a child, and you would think of it as being like an invisible friend, because as a child I had a lot of those, and so it could still be the same thing. So I could just be right nuts, or it's real. And the reason, I have been to therapists who tested yeah, but what I do, that's why I tell people to be skeptic, because I was like, okay, so you're real. And what a lot of people do, and this is so much fun, is they do the parking spot test.
Oh, yes.
You ask your guardian angels to please make sure that you get an excellent parking spot. And you will notice that you start to be able to park by the front door of whatever you're building. It works so much of the time.
Gotta try that sometime.
Yeah, try it
especially
today.
with camera equipment, you know.
Absolutely. You set the intention before you go.
Right in front of the door.
You'll see. And the only time you won't get it is when somebody else needs it more than you. And we can all be okay with that, right? So it's really cool. So I don't drive. So I was like, well, that's not going to work for me. And it was an ice storm, and I have what we would call a zero balance. I can't skate, and I wobble on my bike, but I ride it anyway. So it's always been an issue for me, balance. And it was an ice storm, and I had to go to the grocery store. So I was like, okay. if you can get me there and back and I don't wipe out once, I'll know you exist. And there for sure, I made it all the way, and I came back and went, there's something to this.
They must hate those tests, so come on.
No, they're delighted. Because our guardian angels, before they become guardian angels, they're known as the watcher angels, because we have to consciously activate them in our life. The watcher angels, and this was so beautiful, and this was early when I first started my work. They showed me a huge high-rise that went, I was on top of the high-rise with them, that went in every direction as far as you could see. It was endless, okay? And it was in neat, perfect rows. There was a skylight, row upon row, and over each skylight was an angel praying. And one of them waved for me to come over, and when I went over, I looked down and I could see the person's whole life unfold. It was so cool. And I was like, oh. And they said, and then when you call us, when you give us permission, then we can come in. Before that, the angels and the other aspects of the divine, whether your spirit guides or the ascended masters, that no one is allowed to interfere with you unless you are about to die outside of your time. We have designated death times. Then they'll come in and interrupt, because you are here for a purpose. And the idea is to help you to get through and complete that.
Fascinating.
But speaking of that, that is fascinating. So what would cause us to die outside of our designated time?
Because some things are random. So you could get hit by a car, for example, and that because you changed at the last minute to go in a different place. One of the things that's interesting is when we come in with the angels, most of us that are in a higher energy do. If you see people presenting a great deal of evil, it's very possible that they have, between incarnations, not connected with spirit, and that's why their evil is so big and so dark. So most of us, though, when once we pass from the body, we return home, if you will. If necessary, we have a rest time. Usually, for a lot of us, it's a little bit required. More traumatic your death, more likely to need rest. When you first come through, you will be greeted by the entities, the people that you loved, for more than one lifetime, but predominantly you will see the ones that you have affected in this lifetime. And then I had been shown a past lifetime where I was very much in love with my wife. I was the man in that one. And it was one of the greatest loves of all of my lifetimes. And I expected when I went to see them that I would continue with her. But my vibration was no longer the same resonance as hers. And you do not come back in with people until your resonance is the same. And all of us go up and down in our lifetimes between being a very fine person with energy and lower energies as well. So it's sort of interesting that way. So then once you passed away, if you need to heal, you have that, and then you're brought into a life review. In that review, you not only feel, again, what you felt, but you get to feel what every person who crossed your path felt. So when you think about that, your pain, if you brought pain to people, like that alone, hearing that, I'm like, okay, I'm just bringing happiness to everyone.
So I've heard that this period of review is like about the value of 20 years, like in our world.
Spirit confirms that, yeah. But you wouldn't.
That's amazing.
But the value of 20 years. Oh, okay. That
the time that you spend
depend on
reviewing what you did.
Yeah. If we would put it into human time, it would be about a 20-year thing.
That's amazing.
For me, like once you start, one of the things that's very important for people to know is my intention when I opened up with meditation, and that was to communicate with the angels. What I didn't know is that opened you up to everything and everybody else. It's just a question of fine-tuning, and that's what you learn, is how to tune into the different realms. It's really cool. I love all this stuff. So energetically, that's one of the things, though, when you meditate, and why I really insist on people doing it in a very balanced and safe way. That's why I encourage the angel way, or the Edgar Cayce thing, is because as you open, you're not just opening to the angels, you're also opening to negative entities, discarnate spirits that don't know they're dead, people that in spirit energy are of a negative thing. And the sad thing is, too, entities, we'll call them disenfranchised entities, they do like to look for newbies to, mess with. So this is why, we encourage people to do things in a safe and appropriate way. a lot of us will get really enthusiastic and feel we have to hurry up with this. But we're guided, and I tell you from my own experience, as I mentioned, not really a good idea. Take your time because it's worth the journey. And if you do, then you will receive the benefit of everything as you go. And if you try to push things forward, for one thing, Spirit's the one who gives the increase. So you can meditate for 1,000 years, 5 hours a day, and say, oh, I want this. Well, it will come when you're actually ready to receive it. So there might be humility required in that one. So it's like it's brought to you, but it is their increase. This is also a safety thing, because one of the things I said to Spirit recently was, okay, the people on the earth that are right now doing, let's call them bad things, are they working with the same energies I am? And Spirit said, absolutely, the energy is there. It's available for your use, and you can use it in the way you will.
But they're not using it.
They're using it in the way they will, but what they're creating for themselves is some incredibly negative karma. And this is, we do have free will, and that means, yeah, you can do anything you want, but we are not, well, we are still subject to the laws of the universe.
Yeah.
So you can kill someone, yes, you can, if that's what you choose to do, but you have all of what goes with that if you have done that. That was one of the interesting things when I went into that past life regression and I saw the wife that I had. In that lifetime I had been a knight, and a very successful knight. And one of the reasons I was brought that was to see a successful relationship, but also it was so good to see in that lifetime I really knew who I was. I really felt comfortable in my skin. I was so clear about what was real and not. It was really remarkable, and I was like, oh, okay, I want to go back into that energy. So you can bring that forward. It's a cool thing. So I fully, I came out, I saw my wife right away, and I was so happy, and then she turned and walked away, and the door shut, and I was like, oh, it's not what I thought. And then in front of me were all the men that I had killed, all of the soldiers, and there was lots and lots. And we all looked at each other, and we literally just went like that. Because we are all in the same karma. There's no karma here because we're all soldiers. And when you're a soldier, you know what you're going for. You're going to kill or be killed. That's brutal, but it's the reality of our reality. So because I was a soldier of ethics, and one of the things I could hear the voice saying from that lifetime, I never raped women, and I never murdered women or children. I was a soldier. And I was like, good, okay. Now I know that I have been seen other lifetimes where not nearly that noble, and have definitely paid for the price for some very, very bad things.
So you were a knight of light.
Anyway, in that lifetime. Well, I was working for the French in that lifetime. Yeah, it was very interesting.
Wow.
And then, but I know that I've had other lifetimes where I was, but the thing is, those lifetimes still make me smile. So, but being a pirate and being definitely a soldier numerous times, I know that I've been in a male body 75% of the time.
Wow.
Yeah, the reason being because it was easier to be a male. And you could have so much more experience than being a female. It's been
especially
very
the earlier in time you go.
Yeah, you have to go way back in our history, like 75,000 or 100,000 years for when it was the maternal world, and it worked that way. So it's interesting. I had to laugh at myself. So I thought, so now you're willing to come in as a woman since things are starting again.
Makes sense.
So are you saying that knowing your past lives, or being aware of your past lives, that the way it affects you today? Because I find this question or this topic really, really interesting, and I ask this question to myself all the time. What do I gain from knowing my past lives? Are you saying that for you, what I heard you say was that you can sort of relive your triumphs or tap into certain feelings that maybe don't come easily now, that you have experienced?
That's right. So, and we can bring it forward. And what they showed me, the angels, is, and this I worked with Metatron through, because he's in charge of the Akashic Records. So at the center, think of your higher self, okay, as being this beautiful ball of light. The higher self sends out beams of light and projects itself into manifestation. See that as like spokes on a wheel, and the wheel is constant, and it's all at the same time. So we're actually experiencing all of our lifetimes at one time. Even though we, because of being in this body, in this dimension, we have to experience it linearly. So to us it's before or it's after. So from that space, you can go and tap into various lifetimes. One of the ones they took me to was as a high priestess in Egypt. In that lifetime, I was a very petite woman, and I was the head priestess and very powerful, but it was the time of Akhenaton when he brought in the idea of one God. And of course that went against what everybody in Egypt was feeling, so I felt very, very strongly in that lifetime that I was fighting against the crown for the maintenance of Isis. Isis being understood, we call her the Holy Spirit if you're in the Christian religion, but Isis is Mother Nature of all nature, from all of creation, that contains everything. The Egyptians understood this very well. And to take us from this kind of knowledge and connection to our reality into this finite thing of there's one God, which is not even, there's one creator, but there's many gods and goddesses. Like, there's so many different, and everything is a facet and an aspect of the original light or creator. We're just a little hologram of that. And we were created by Creator because Creator knew everything, but had not experienced it. So it's different, like you can read that chocolate tastes really good, but it is not remotely similar to tasting chocolate and deciding for yourself. Right? So this is what we are, is Creator experiencing Creator self. So everything you see around you is actually our Creator, is actually God, if you will. So it behooves us to treat everything with the greatest of respect, because everybody I've ever come across, no matter how tough or cool they thought they were, if they came face to face with God, if you will, they would not be cursing or anything else. They would be feeling a totally different thing. So in that, by knowing that, we can just treat and honor everything around us. And what Spirit wants for us is in oneness, for us to become back to the understanding that we are one entity again, which we experienced earlier when we were doing our meditation together.
Yes, we did a meditation before the interview, a grounding meditation that Carol led us through. So go on.
And that allows us to feel that one-ment, because the monadic light within each of us opened up and we were resting in that light, and still are as we're working now. It won't close down till we separate and go our own ways. So it's a beautiful, beautiful thing. And what happens when you connect with that light, you actually remember who you are. And you love everybody. And not to say we love what they do, certainly not, and nor are we to condone it. Now is the time to be active. Spirit says it used to be okay, you could... In 2011, November 11th, 2011, there was a great schism created by the universe for us. And now you're on one side or you're on the other. There's no more gray area. You can't walk by the homeless and not care. You can't just let the water be polluted and that. We can no longer live without that consciousness. And you're choosing which side you're going to fall on. And it's so clear. I mean, you can look in the news and it's like, it's clear. Compassion, kindness, love. These are the energies of our Creator. Cruelty, greed, maliciousness, stupidity, and ignorance, these are manifest by us and by particular groups in order to keep us weak. And that brings us back to why Spirit wants us to meditate. Because then you can hear whatever politician or business person, CEO, or whatever people that are trying to tell us something that's not working for us, whatever comes out of their mouth, you will be able to connect with Spirit and say, okay, that's good, or that isn't. And then we work together as a collective. Yeshua, Jesus Christ, one of the things that he brought me that was so beautiful was that at one point I was doing some spiritual growth, and they bring you rewards and gifts and symbols along the way to let you know that you're getting somewhere, you know. And so Yeshua arrives and he gives me a beautiful sparrow. And I look at it and I hand it back to him and I said, don't you mean a dove? Because...
Okay. Well, that's his response.
As usual. The reason for that was because I was trying to work on a hairpiece at the moment. And he said, no, this is for you. Go figure. So I was like, okay, a sparrow. And like, I love sparrows, but they're not the sexiest bird on the block, right? And that's kind of the point. And so when I looked up at sparrows, sparrows live everywhere in the world. They have survived everything, similar to the cockroach.
Right.
And they can hide easily, so you don't even know they're there. But their song is one of the most beautiful. And I was like, and that's us. Yeshua says we, the great mass of people that are not in powerful positions at the moment, we are the sparrows, and it's our time.
Beautiful.
Yeah. So our song is going to be so big, and it will be a global one. That was the other thing he was telling us. This is the whole world, because these birds are everywhere. So and they don't go away in winter.
That's right.
They stay around. Yeah. They're resilient little things, and that's who most of us are. And so we just need to hang in there. And as we wake up more and more, and once you're awake, you don't get to pretend that you're asleep.
Or fall back asleep.
No, it doesn't work that way. It's like, it's basically opening a Pandora's box. So if you really want to live in denial for the rest of your life, don't open the door. But I don't know, for me it's so much more exciting, it's so much more interesting, so much bigger than we are originally presented. Then why wouldn't we want to know? Why wouldn't we want to find out how we can change and be and manifest something more beautiful?
Yeah.
When I first started with spirit, and this was when I first meditated, and because I didn't really know what I was here for. I knew I came to be a mom, and I absolutely love that, and it's been really great and fulfilling. But my career, I worked in a bank, and I always wanted to be a teacher. That's long story. I ended up in a bank for 23 years, which I can't do math, and I hate banking. So, but I love people, so I managed to struggle through that. But it was really, really hard to do that. And what was my point? Oh yeah, so I was meditating with spirit just at the very beginning. I was still at the bank, and I had asked what was mine to do. And the Great Spirit, or God, if you will, showed the two of us, him and I. And I'm saying him just because but it's not. It's it and I. Its head was a globe of light that was like a living thing, like almost like flame, and or a very good word, yeah. And streaming from the head was all of creation in the universe. Like it was like the whole universe. It was very, very cool. And I was holding the Creator's hand, and we were flying over a big city, and it was like a bit later in spring than now. And Spirit handed me a pouch of seeds, and I threw them out, and the seeds fell to the sidewalks and the road, and wherever the seeds landed, they bloomed a flower immediately. Didn't need soil or anything. And any person who stopped to look at the flower, it transformed into a butterfly. And they said, that's what you're here for. Now go figure it out.
And you figured it out, then you have it.
So I understand you offer intuitive angel services to your clients.
Oh yes.
Is there anything else that you do? Do you do workshops? Do you do, I don't know, anything online?
I'm working on a new website. I have a current one, but it's sort of in a static, like it doesn't have a lot going on, but that's angelicloveandlight.com. I am working on a new one called inOneMint.com, which is going to be more fully expressing the work that I'm doing. So I'm pretty excited about that. What I'm doing is I hold regular circles, guided meditation circles. Isabel was at one the other night.
That's right.
And it's always different who comes in. The angels tell me beforehand. They're the ones that, because it's them that set it all up. Like they tell me. So this week it was very interesting because who was chosen was Michael, Raphael, and Oriel. All part of the Diamond Matrix. So they're there every time anyway. And I thought, oh, that's interesting. I said, that's kind of a very sort of a sweet, I said, that's like going right back to the beginning. Well, you've been once before, but we're pretty new, and 3 people that had never been before. So it was a perfect circle for them, because it was a very gentle sort of, because some of them are pretty heavy duty. Most of them. So in the circles, so people understand, it's not just like a guided meditation where I make up a story for you. What they have trained me to do is we connect very deeply with the energy of the Divine Mother and the Heavenly Father, and when that's ready, the monadic light opens. When the monadic light is open, we welcome in these angels. They help me to hold a portal open so we can walk through there go into their realm. So what I am describing to people is what I see.
So Carol, what is the nomadic light? You've been mentioning it a few times throughout our conversation.
Okay. The monadic light is our first body. To understand that, we have 7 bodies. And the first body is the monad, which is that tiny spark of golden light, which is in all of living creation. And it's very interesting because the scientists call it the God particle and recently discovered it.
Wow.
Yeah.
The scientists recognize that
They do now. They have to build a big thing that did, they shot stuff around miles and miles to create, and they were afraid it might destroy the universe, but they thought, what the heck, we'll go ahead and yeah, I love that kind of thinking. So yeah, but as it turned out, what it did show them was that this life force is in all of creation, in every living thing. So what mystics have always known, science is slowly catching up to. So the monadic light, as I was explaining before, is the creator. It's that droplet. You could think of our creator as being a big ocean of light, and we're one of those drops of light. That's your first body, the monad. The second body is called the Adonai. The Adonai body is the film, if you will, that allows you to believe that you are separate from our creator and an individual.
The programming.
What purpose does that serve us?
So that we can have things new and fresh, right?
Right.
We have
we
real
come and we
experiences.
already know it all, then how bored do we get and how quickly? And this is part of it, right? It's so that we can learn and express and grow, and our creator gets to do it over and over in different ways, and then we improve, hopefully, or don't, but hopefully we're heading up with the improvement. So the Adonai is like that veil that allows us to believe that we are separate. Then you have the soulic body, and that is your higher self. To connect with the soulic body, there's a chakra above your head, 8 to 12 inches, called the soul star chakra.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
It's
that's,
Soul star chakra.
so is that 9, 10, 9?
Yeah, just anywhere around here. And I usually feel 9 up about there. And that's where you can connect with your higher self if you would like to through meditation. So from that higher self in the soulic body, then you have the mental body, you then have your emotional body, then your energy/history body, and then you have your physical body, which is the one that we are also very well aware of. Interesting, when we start to heal, and this was something I found out through time and practice, is that because of the way we've been raised to think of the body as a singular body, when we heal, we think that we heal singularly. But our bodies heal at their own rate and rhythm. So your mental body, and I'm a person who can be quite practical and cerebral, and I can say, well, this is this and that's why, and it's all fine. So my mental body is going down the street and everything's fine. My emotional body is extremely sensitive and it's way back and going, I haven't done that, not okay, not coming with you. It's different.
Okay, it's not coming with you.
So it's about bringing them into actual balance and harmony again. Yes, and each of the bodies has its own brain. So that's another thing too. Its
own brain, so its own program or its own...
That's right.
Beliefs or way of functioning?
A way of functioning, and the thing is, as we start to, like, if you keep having your heart broken, that becomes your program. I have a broken heart. I will never have anything but a broken heart. So you always constantly attract people that will bloody well break your heart. So once and your mind might say, okay, I'm not going out with him anymore, but you will attract somebody who has a completely different face, different job, different smell, different race and creed and color, but the core will still be the thing you never healed with in the first place. So no matter who you bring in, if you haven't healed, they're going to perform for you what is required to be done. It's sort of, yeah, it's very cool, but it can also be frustrating.
And how do you describe that in relation to the bodies and the different brains, if you like? Like that, would that be, for example, the example you use of someone who has a constant broken heart or consistently, that would be like the emotional body?
Yes, that's the emotional body. See, so
it's not a mental thing.
No, it's sometimes like what the mind tries to do, the mind rationalizes and the heart feels. Like the emotional body just feels.
Right.
So the mental body is the one that, like in my case, like sorts everything out. Well, it's fine, you're okay, you're strong, you can get through it, just we can carry on. And the emotional body is like, I need a bath, I need my crystals, I need some flowers.
chocolate.
Yes, and then the energy body is separate again. And when you're working in the energy body, that's like your past, your present, your future. So there you don't heal, you resolve. And then you come
What's
to...
the difference? Sorry to interrupt.
Well, healing, that can affect past lives, and which will affect future ones. So you want things resolved in a history body so that it doesn't affect the time continuum, I guess. And then physical body is a separate healing as well. And for many of us, if you've had a particularly traumatic life, what my therapist, and they're very good to go to, explained is that if your mental and emotional bodies are not given the time they need to get through things that are tough, we sort of push it down and everything, but eventually it comes into your physical body as physical illness, but it also manifests in our physical world as bad relationships, horrible jobs, never getting ahead, things like that.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it's a powerful thing, and this is why Spirit wants us to go into these bodies and see what's there and allow for that. And it's a process, because for a lot of us, we started being changed as children, very young. And so there can be a fair amount of healing there. And we might not even be aware of a lot because of repress.
You were saying being changed, like, in other words, having experiences that
change you,
affect us or change us, sometimes in negative ways.
That's right. Sometimes they make you stronger, but can at the same time. Like I was terribly bullied from grade 2 to grade 6 by my gym teacher. That gave a lasting distaste for anybody athletic. And for sports of all kinds.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. Maybe
oh my God,
yeah. Adversity towards sports because of it.
Absolutely. I mean, he was incredibly cruel, and he took me out, and then my worst year was when I had him for math and science. That was when my parents finally found out, because when I was growing up, you were still allowed to hit kids in school, and you didn't go home and say, want to help with that. My parents hadn't hit me, but it was anyway. So this teacher was terrible, and I grew up feeling that people in general that are athletic are bullies, and I had no connection to that energy whatsoever. And ironically, of course, Spirit loves these things. So my eldest son is such a baseball fan. All of my kids, even my daughter, loves hockey. And I'm like, it's just like cruel, isn't it? It's just like, heal, Carol, heal. It'll all go away.
Right. Because who knows what other world it would open you up to if you were to be maybe more comfortable. I mean, what you could do with your own body even, right? If you were more athletic or more open to.
Well, it was interesting because in spite of that teacher, like I never liked gym class, so and I don't like soccer or things like that, because if you hit me, it brings out a really bad part of my character. And I'm extremely competitive, as it turns out, none of which I find fill me with grace. So I'd rather use that particular energy for something really worthwhile. So, but what I did do, because I love to ride my bike, I'm an avid swimmer, and I love walking, and yoga and all these things. But if you'll notice, they're all things I can do on my own.
Right.
So it did definitely made it definitely changed it.
But also, I would add to that I think that when we're different, and now that's going to be less and less different, and it's going to become more and more mainstream, I suppose. But when we feel like we are different and we don't quite fit into the mold, I think it's also very natural for us not to want to be part of a team, because we know right away that we don't belong, or in some way, in some sense,
that's true.
We just don't fit in that mold.
That's it. That's true. So and to avoid having rejection or anything like that.
Interesting.
So you mentioned earlier 2 websites. So you're transitioning basically from
right now. So right now, just go with angelicloveandlight.com.
Okay.
I can be reached by text at 438-777-3127.
Okay.
And it's really good to email me through my Hotmail, which is Alison with 1 L, C for Carol, Blackburn, my last name, at hotmail.com. And and I will get back to people for sure. I have some great upcoming things. I have a Yeshua guided meditation circle. Yeshua is the given name of Jesus, and he asked that we use that instead because the vibration is higher and pure, and it's a beautiful thing. That's a different subject again about the vibration of our names, but we'll come back to that. So we're having a Yeshua circle, and if you will understand, when we as humans decide that we want to connect with a higher realm, we need to do a process in order to raise our vibration, which is why we do the meditation. And they have me do it very systematically, so that no matter when you come to my circles, the first part is always pretty much the same. It might be off by a little bit. But that is so the people that are more experienced, they immediately go into the energy, they don't need to listen to me, and then the new ones are pulling in that. We are prepared for that, our vibration is raised, and we go up to the angels. They're here, but if we want to go to Yeshua and the Ascended Masters, we have to go higher still, so it's a more of a process. So we will be having a Yeshua circle, I believe it's on the 23rd, I'm doing this by memory, and the following week...
April?
Yes, in this month. And then the following weekend, I am having a workshop on past lives. And it will be, we'll be looking at the proof of that, like how do we know that that's true? And there's so much research now that supports it, it's amazing. But then we're also going to be picking up, for the people that come, we're going to be finding out some of their past lives and how it's affecting them currently.
Oh,
This is
always interesting.
Very interesting.
Started to touch upon that today, but we definitely feel like this could be a part 2.
Oh, absolutely. It's so interesting because it all affects us, who we are each lifetime, and it's the empowerment of that.
Well, Alison Carol Blackburn, thank you so much.
Yes.
Thank you
This
so
has been,
much.
actually this was a blessing to have you with us, truly.
Great meditating with you in the beginning and having these really fascinating conversations that could just, they feel like they could go on
Yes.
and on and on.
You know me well.
So thanks again.
Thank you
And
both so very
So
much.
there you have it. That's it for today. Hope to see you soon. Take care.
Thank you. Thank you.